Hello again everyone, Mary Rose here at Stitch Bliss Corner. Welcome to you all. And it's quite a nice day here. The washing's already on the line, so that's always a good start to any day, is getting your washing out there for the maximum amount of drying time. Yes, anyway, so I jotted down something before I start today, and I wrote it down quickly. I thought, well, I'll read this out because I think it's an important aspect of stitching. So here goes. In a world of mass production, every piece of stitching you do is unique. Even if you use the same fabric, the same threads and the same chart, it's still a one-off that has no equal in the world, because your stitches are exclusive only to yourself. Your stitching signature is all over your work. Now just let that sink in for a little while. I mean, how unique is that, that anything that you produce is unique to yourself. There isn't another one like it in the world. Now, you know, that's pretty amazing really to contemplate, isn't it? Anyway, so now we're on to the update of Fancy Boots, otherwise known as Dear Guest from Far Away. And I have, sorry, I'm just trying to put my, oh no, I don't want to put that down because I'm going to need it later for bits and bobs. So did I just get my information here? It'd be very good if I could finish a sentence, wouldn't it? Now, I just thought you might want to see a self-portrait of the artist of Dear Guest, Oscar Freiwirth-Lutzow, and there he is there. So I just thought you might like to see him. Oh, that looks like a good paint. Oh, I mustn't get sidetracked. There's another painting here by him that looks really good. But I won't be venturing into any more, I don't think. Not this size anyway, because it's just a very big piece. So I think I'll sort of try to curb my enthusiasm for the next piece that I stitch anyway. We'll just have to see. Now, just before I get to Oscar, we did have an advocate for Fiddler's cloth, quite a few actually. One stitcher said that she really loves stitching on it, and the way DMC slides through it, and the way the piece looks when completed. She said she highly recommends stitching on it. It obviously comes down to personal experience, and actually I do have, I think it's Fiddler's cloth that I've stitched on that I didn't even realise I had been stitching on it, so I'll show that to you later. Now, for anyone who's wondering what on earth it's all about, someone did ask me to look into Fiddler's cloth, and Harlequin did have a look and online, you know, and there were a few people that weren't keen on it. And anyway, there are quite a few people that think it's pretty good. So I suppose it's a case of if you order some fabric, and this probably goes for every fabric really, you order it, and when it arrives, well, you have to use your common sense to see whether or not it's going to work for you and for the piece that you have in mind. You know, I mean, you're not going to turn around and do some fine work on something that is like a sack, you know. The fabric's like a sack. You know, you do use your own common sense in these matters. So it was very interesting to get that feedback on the Fiddler's cloth. Yeah, so just keep your wits about you when it comes to choosing your fabric. And that also goes for hand-dyed fabrics, which, you know, I've seen some fabulous stitching on a hand-dyed fabric that has been carefully chosen, and the positioning has been carefully chosen of the stitching on the hand-dyed fabric, because sometimes I think that the stitching gets lost in there. If the background is a similar colour to the stitching that you're doing, and that's the last thing you want. You want your stitches to be the king of the piece. That's the whole point of stitching in the first place, I would have thought. So you do have to keep that in mind when you've got your hand-dyed fabric that you've specially chosen, and your placement of your stitching on that fabric is very important. So you need really to take a bit of time to work out whether it's going to work or not. Mostly it seems to work pretty well, but there are times where I've squinted at what the person is holding up and thought, well, where are the stitches and where's some of the hand-dyed fabric, it's so good that you could almost put it up in a frame anyway and have it on your wall, because it's so interesting. Like that, and you kind of think, well, put your fabric in a frame and then go and find something else to do the stitching on that you were thinking of doing in the first place. Oh, I'm in one of those silly moods today, I'm sorry. Everything seems to be a little bit funny. But anyway, was there anything else I was going to say? Because I wrote a few things down. I think that's actually it. So I'm going to also talk about the rose fairy that I did in the last mania, the mania in July that I did, and I kept the actual subject secret to the end so that anyone who hadn't seen it, it would be a surprise to them. Now, I'm assuming by now that anyone who was even remotely interested would already have had a look at the video, so I don't feel, that I'm letting anything out of the bag to talk about it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that piece that I stitched for a very special member of the family. They're all special, but, sometimes things are put on your heart to stitch for someone, and it sometimes feels like it comes from somewhere else, that it's put on your heart to do something for someone, and you really don't get any peace until you've done it. Well, that's what I've found in my case anyway. So anyway, on to Dear Guest from Far Away. I will now take you over to a short video that I did for the this is the 6th row that I've finished, and I've started now on the 7th and final row of pages, but we'll just go over to that now. Well, I've finished row 6, so I'm just going to take this across so that you can see the stitching. The icon is complete there. And then that blank area above will be the final row of pages. Yes, so that's the 6th row of pages, all complete. And I'll just get the work now and just show you. Oh gosh, I think everything's going to go flying. Hopefully not, I'll just let it settle. Now, just before I hold this up, what I've done now, because I've gone on, it's that fiddler's cloth giving me trouble over here. What I've done now, these are the cards that I was using for Dear Guest, and otherwise known as Fancy Boots. And I had them numbered from 1 to 5. So that's what I was using when I was doing all the stitching. Now, I've decanted now some threads off these to a more limited palette because my final row, the 7th row, has limited colours in it. So it just makes it easier then to use these for my final rows. Now I've kept, naturally enough, I've kept those intact just in case there's the odd stitch in there that I need to get from the original palettes that I had. So yeah, so this is what I'm doing now. I've just got these two that I'm using for the final. Now then, I'll just get this. Now, so far, I'm following exactly the chart. Now, the chart, one very kind person made the comment that I may have missed a stitch because it looked like it was still white, where there was a little, but it's really where I've stitched what they've told me to stitch. Then when I finally look at my work at the end, if there's an area that the stitch is so light among some darker stitches that looks as though I've missed a stitch, I'll just replace the stitch with colours that, or a colour that fits in with the colours surrounding it, if you know what I mean. And then there is a part in his hat here. Is it there? See? That looks like it's a missed stitch. But in real life, it doesn't. It's just the light reflecting off his little jewel that he's got in his cap. But I'll have to see what I think, as when I've finished anyway. Now I've already started on the top row there. That's so yeah, I couldn't leave that because I finished this a couple of days ago. But a few things have been happening. We've had our bathroom gutted and renovated, and there were people coming up and down the driveway all day long, and I thought, oh, I'll better wait for a quiet day to show you. So anyway, here's the final row, or the final, it's not the final anything. This is the second final row, And as you can see, there are all the items there on the hearth. If it is a hearth, I'm assuming there's a fireplace there, but maybe it's just a shelf. And with all the different vessels there. And then further across, the icon is now complete. And that window where I did the 1/1 for the outside and the 2/1 for the panes, you know, the frame of the window. That gave me a bit of jip, actually. It did take a while to sort that out, but I persisted with it. So yeah, so it's sort of too big now to actually fit in to the video frame, but you'll get a good look at it when it's finished anyway. I'll make sure of that. But it really is quite an amazing piece of artistry, isn't it? So anyway, that is the update on Fancy. And next time you see him, well, I suppose he'll be in a frame next time you see him, because I'll finish this row, get him framed, and then I'll do a final piece, you know, give you the dimensions and everything. Stitch, well, number of stitches maybe. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, a little bit about the history of the artist, and a little bit about those wonderful boots. Yes, there is a bit of a history about those as well. So I'll pop Fancy over here, and then I'm going to go on to talk about the piece I did for Mania. I stitched for Mania, which was a rose fairy, and I will insert that picture now. I took a picture of it on the back of my chair before it got sent off, so put that in now. So yes, and when I was looking for something else, I was looking through my stitching, and not only did I find the dreaded Fiddler's cloth, which it isn't dreaded. No, it's magic to a lot of people. So I did find, I think it is Fiddler's, the Fiddler's cloth. It might not be Fiddler's cloth, but it sort of looks like it. I found that I had stitched another fairy, which I don't really know why I forgot about this. It's more like a pixie, really, by the same artist. So I'll show that to you. And I do have a book that Harlequin got for me, and I'll show you some of the pictures in there, because it's really quite enchanting. So here we go. Oh, maybe I'll do the Fiddler's first, because why not? I keep thinking Fiddler's Elbow. I think that was the name of a pub somewhere or something, but anyway, maybe I'm imagining things. As I said, I am in a silly mood. I don't need alcohol, that's for sure. Now, I'll just pop this on here so you can have a look. See, there's the, and it's not, well, it sort of looks a little bit like Ada, but I don't know. So here it is. It is a beautiful prayer, and I have stitched this for someone, but I want to put a figure on it, and it's the Francis of Assisi prayer, which is, you know, just lovely. So that was the piece where I thought I had the fiddler's cloth. Yeah, I think it is, because it's slightly different from Ada. And if all of it was like this, you certainly wouldn't have any complaints about it, that's for sure. Not that I had any complaints about it in the first place, I just put forward what Harlequin found on the internet. Oh, and just before I move too far on, that's the original piece for anyone who was watching for the first time. That's the piece that I'm stitching. Right, so you can at least see what it's supposed to look like. So here is, yeah, I'll do this first. This is the little pixie that I found. And the artist is Cicely Mary Barker. So there's the little and it wasn't crumpled up like this for all that time. I did have it rolled up, but then I put it down somewhere and I was doing some other things and it just got a bit crumpled up. But I thought, well, I'm not going to iron it now. I'll do it before I frame it. But look at that little belt made of berries. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? That's the little holly fairy. And it, as you can imagine, if you put a little frame like that around it, it really would suit it nicely, wouldn't it? So that's the holly fairy, or pixie. And here's the book, Cicely Mary Barker, the complete book of the flower fairies. And it really is just gorgeous. And in the book they've divided the fairies up into the seasons. You know, summer, winter, autumn, or fall, and spring. And here I've noticed that the first one for the summer is the little rose fairy that I stitched. Absolutely gorgeous. And there's a little poem that goes with this rose fairy. Best and dearest flower that grows, perfect both to see and smell. Words can never, never tell half the beauty of a rose. Buds that open to disclose, fold on fold of purest white, lovely pink or red that glows, deep sweet-scented, what delight to be fairy of the rose. How true is that? Gorgeous. So I'll just show you some pictures in here. I don't really want to show too many because it seems a bit unfair to the people that have put this book together. But this one caught my eye. Look at that little hat. Gorgeous. I mean, any one of these in this book would be beautiful stitching. And so that's the Michaelmas Daisy Fairy. What else have we got? There's the Hawthorn Fairy. So wait till I just go back here. So the first season in the book is the spring. So I'll just show you a few of these for spring. Now there's this one. That's the Primrose Fairy, and I've always loved primroses. And I have actually stitched primroses. There's some there, and daisies and bluebells. This is years ago. I popped it into a frame. And also recently, I found this in the newsagent. I have shown this before, and there is the little Primrose Fairy there. So I may well be doing those. So that's spring flowers. Let's just see if I find another one. Well, this one looks quite majestic. That is the bluebell fairy there. Almost looks like a courtier. So, that, oh, those are the flowers this spring. There's more there, but I won't show too many. Then we have the flowers of summer, and I've already shown you the rose fairy. But the poppy fairy, she's quite delightful too. And the foxglove. So we'll just go on to autumn. That little one that had the hat on, that was autumn. What else have we got here? And the hawthorn fairy. So you've seen a couple of autumn ones. I'll just do one more. Oh, the acorn fairy. And he's got the little acorn hat. Then we'll go on to winter. Oh, there's the little holly fairy that I showed you, the stitching that I showed you. What's that poem? Oh, I am green in winter time, when other trees are brown. Of all the trees, so saith the rhyme, the holly bears the crown. December days are drawing near, when I shall come to town, and carol boys go singing clear. Of all the trees, oh hush and hear, the holly bears the crown. For who's so well beloved and merry as the scarlet holly berry? Very nice too. And let's see, one more for winter. Oh, there are two here. The pine tree fairy and the yew fairy. Every churchyard in England is supposed to have a yew tree in it. I don't suppose that's the case now, but it used to be. Flower fairies of the trees, and there are all sorts of other fairies that they've got in another section. Of flower fairies of the garden. So as you can see, she was a prolific artist that must have had a wonderful imagination as well. Oh, the willow fairy, that's beautiful as well. Her sister had the equivalent of a daycare centre, and Cicely used to go and pick out a child to pose with a flower, and she used to paint them. So all these fairies were living, breathing children. It's amazing, really, isn't it? Right, so is there anything else I have to tell you? I don't think so. I think I have been asked if I've been thinking of what I'm going to be stitching next. Now, I make it a rule of mine to try not to think of the next thing that I'm going to be stitching. But there is one that I have in mind now. I mean, I have about, 2 or 3 that I've been considering vaguely, like, a marble rolling around in your mind, vaguely, but I don't want to specifically think of it when I'm still stitching on something else, because that can be too distracting. And I have been a bit distracted by something else that isn't stitching. And I'll be sharing that with you when I see you next time. because I don't think I've really ever had something that takes my thought process away from stitching. Although it could easily be integrated in, it's a sort of a drawing type thing, drawing and various inks and things like that. And I think you can do that in between the stitching, so it's not like it would completely take over. But that's another area I don't want to think too much about, because it's just too tempting. And Harlequin, he's enabling me too much as well. He got me this box of 300 different coloured pencils. And it's just, well, I'll show it to you next time. You'll see all about it. Maybe by then I'll be over it anyway. It might just be one of those, how you get a little bit of a craze on something and then it starts to dwindle off. Possibly that will be the case, because stitching has my heart, that's for sure. Like a lot of you out there, there's something that stitching will satisfy as far as your creative instinct more than any other pastime. And that's just the way it is for a lot of us. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say for this time. What is it now? October, November, December. I don't know that I will get this row finished before Christmas. And if I don't, I hope everyone has a wonderful and blessed Christmas, and with family and friends. Until I see you all again, make the most of each thing that comes and the least of all things that go. And it's Mary Rose signing off until next time. Bye for now.